Hello, friends. It's a rainy day, but it is Monday, the 28th of April, 2019. Welcome back to the garden. That was a dumb intro, wasn't it? I tried to kind of recreate the energy that I had on week 0, because here we are at week 4, and what a difference a lunar month makes. It's raining, if you couldn't tell by my rain jacket. I hope the mic doesn't sound too terrible today. I've had to make some modifications. For instance, above the camera, I've attached an umbrella, which is why I'm able to do this in the rain. It's actually kind of fun, and I have to admit that I like the overcast skies because I think they cast really even light on everything in the garden. And additionally, the rain really brings out the beautiful amber color of cedar, in my opinion. So, man, there's just so much to talk about. Let's start in with the overview shot, shall we? Actually, before we get to this week's overview shot, take a look at week 0. This was 28 days ago, the first day of April. And, it was more gray because we had everything was just starting to wake up. The grass really wasn't that green. There was little to no greenery in the garden. In fact, there was none except for a little bit on the onions. And now, take a look at today. We can see that so much has changed. The grass has greened up. The walking onions look really nice. But the big difference is over here in the raspberries. And I guess now that I'm looking at things through the viewfinder here, it's kind of hard to tell, except for the rhubarb and the gooseberry. But the perennials are greening up like mad. When we go over to the raspberries in a second, you'll be wowed and you'll think, oh my gosh, what a difference a week makes when it comes to perennials hardening up. And I think that says a lot about the importance of perennials in a garden, if you'll humor me for a minute. Especially in gardening zones up here in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, United States, where I am. It stays cold for a long, long time. And oftentimes, well, pretty much no matter what, the first things that will come out of the ground are asparagus, rhubarb, and then flowers, daffodils, tulips, and such. Those perennials. So my gooseberry is greening up. In fact, it set on buds this past week. Buds. This is the end of April, and I'm getting tiny little what are going to be florets, which will be berries in another couple weeks. Can you believe it? It's flabbergasting. Which is why I bought a whole bunch of other perennials this past week. They got shipped to me from Stark Bros. Made a little video on that if you wanted to check it out, see what I had coming. Not going to be planting it today, and I probably won't be planting them this week because it's supposed to be light, soft rains all week and only in the lower 50s. But that first week of May, we've got sunshine and 60s again, and that's a great time to get those in the garden and in their pots where they're supposed to go. Very exciting. Last week we talked about one of my tasks, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, seeding these pots, or not pots, but my barrels, and the seedlings are sprouting. So I'll have to move the camera a little bit because I'm tilting it down pretty harshly and my umbrella's kind of snapping. But you can see all the little spinach seedlings are coming up. They come up so quickly, just a joy. And the same over there, even from this asinine angle, you can see little seedlings coming up. This is an experiment for me this year, doing these in these 2 barrels, so we'll see how well it works. This bed here has been completely planted. This last week I did this half with radishes and beets. I don't think I took any footage of it. The week prior I did my carrots in here, and there's a video for that. And it's really hard to tell, and because of the rain I'm not going to bring you in, but I can start to tell where my rows are because I do have carrot seedlings that are coming up. No radishes yet, but again, it's awfully cold, so even though these are cold hardy crops, their germination will take just a bit longer. But speaking of things coming up, take a look at my peas. All of my peas I planted 2 weeks ago, and the entire raised bed looks like this. They're coming up really nicely, and in fact I'll probably thin them to be, spaced apart like this because they're a little close now. You do that because you never know what your germination rate is necessarily going to be with the old seeds. I'm super pleased. This is the earliest I've ever had peas in the ground. Last year was the earliest before this, and I think I mistakenly said I've got my peas in by the 40th of April.
So over here was actually where I planted my first seeds of 2018, and I planted them on the 40th of April, which is the earliest I've ever planted anything. And they were peas, and check it out. They're coming up.
So not only am I beating that record this year, but they have germinated several days before they were even planted last year. Wonderful what progress you can make by having raised beds. Well, buds are setting on, as we can see here on this Macintosh apple tree. They are everywhere. They're about a centimeter long in most places, which is lovely. So I planted this as a bare root tree 3 years ago, and there's a saying with bare root trees. And the first year they sleep, in the second year they creep, and in the third year they leap. So this should be a leap year. When you look at the tree, it came and it was only this tall. Okay, it had maybe a few little sticks sticking out of it. Year number 2 is when all of this big growth here happened, and this is just about as tall as I am. This is maybe 6 feet, so I'm taller. So I imagine maybe 3 feet worth of growth out of this. Either way, this apple tree and the peach tree, which I'll bring you to in a second, those are really going to be spectacular. Here we can really see just tons of little buds coming on the peach tree. I think this actually might bear fruit this year, although I'm tempted to snap those off just so that the tree can have one more year putting its energy into growing instead of producing fruit. In addition to the trees actually setting on leaves, I am proud to say that all 5 of the trees survived. Last year I had to replace the Granny Smith, and that replacement worked out perfectly. It's got as much green on it as the Macintosh did. Alright, check it, y'all. This is how green the raspberries have gotten in just a week. I mean, major differences. Like similarly to the gooseberry last week, where I said you didn't even have to zoom in to see it, you can just see the green on them. Same with these raspberries now. You just look and you see the hedge. My week ahead here is very similar to last week, what I had talked about planting the perennials. Since they finally came, I'm going to get them in the ground. If you want to know what I'm talking about, refer to last week's garden tour. Things haven't changed, except my currants haven't been shipped yet, but I can get going on the blueberry and the American cranberries, and I can finally do the bed of asparagus. That's something totally new for me, and I'm really jazzed for it. But in other news, now that my big Adirondack chair project is finished, I had been making a pretty big bulk order of chairs and tables for people, and they turned out nicely, and that's done. So all I have to do is deliver those to my clients. And now that that's finished, I'm going to complete this other project, which I started and then left go for a long time, and that is the purple picket fence. Obviously that section's been done for a month. Now's the time to get going on that. So I'll probably get the wood and start cutting things in the garage, and in between the rainy spells this week, I can get out and paint. And then once the paint's dried, we can start assembling. I also need to get myself probably another 2 barrels to chop in half. I want 2 half barrels here, and then 1 half barrel over there for the blueberries, so I got to go to my dealer, because I know a guy. Actually, it really pays to do your research on half barrels. I use 55-gallon food-grade plastic barrels, and I get the comments like, "Oh, why are you using plastic? It's going to seep into your food." It's a really bad impersonation of a generic complaint. Or, "Man, those things are so expensive. Even the cheap ones are like $60 at Fleet Farm." And those are true points, but my response to item number 1 is I use food-grade stuff. So if food was shipped in here and stored, I figure it's probably fine for growing, and that's what I also read online. And also, there is a place that sells these used in my area, and my barrels, I think when I bought them a couple years back, like $12 a piece. Just ridiculous. So it's a very affordable method in my area. So check it out. If you're around here in Wisconsin, it's on Highway 26, and otherwise there are probably resellers in your area, or check out Craigslist. You can find stuff for cheap. It just takes a little bit of effort. All right, dudes and dudettes, check it. We've got buds. We got buds on the gooseberry. That's right. These tiny little things that are coming into focus that are a light shady yellow are going to be florets, little flowers that we will see. Who knows? Maybe next week they'll open up, but 2 weeks for sure. And they'll be tiny little yellow flowers for a little while, and then they will turn into gooseberries. I am so excited, and I forget how quickly this happens with the gooseberry bush. Other highlights, of course, that we have talked about include the raspberries just opening up and looking so beautiful. The rhubarb, you know, let's backtrack for a second. This is another week ahead item. I'm going to harvest rhubarb for the first time this season, and I'm going to make myself a rhubarb pie. That's a highlight and a week ahead task. Of course, we've got the sprouted spinach and the sprouted peas. Really just amazing. And outside of the garden, we've got gorgeous daffodils in the front. Just pockets of them left and right. The tulips are coming up, but they haven't opened. I expect that'll probably happen this week or the next. I've got buds on all of our trees. This maple tree always looks so cute. And then we've got I believe this is a Buckeye chestnut that's doing its business in the front too. That's almost a 90-year-old tree. And of course the fruit trees, which we talked about. I spent some time, probably 2 weeks ago, cleaning out the little square base. You know, there's just grass that sneaks into there eventually. Just pulled that all out, and then I topped it off with more mulch that had just decomposed over the last 2 years. So here we are, and I see the umbrella has fallen down on me. Oh, hi, guys. Better luck? Well, it's going to be you, me, and the tip of an umbrella. So I think I'm going to sign off. Thank you, everybody who's given suggestions for the garden. The poll opens this Wednesday. I had a chuckle. Somebody made a comment, #TeamBill. So we'll see what happens. Anyways, you got another couple days to leave a suggestion if you want. Otherwise, is it raining? Are you getting April showers to bring May flowers in your garden? What's coming up? What should I know about my asparagus when I plant that soon? Etc., etc. Thank you for helping me with my creative placemaking. I love you guys. Have a great week.